Hey everyone, welcome back to the Gathering Movement. I'm so grateful to be with you all today. I'm here with Laura, and we're going to be talking about the healing power of nature. So welcome, Laura.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming onto the show. Thanks for offering, your knowledge and your wisdom to the community. And before we got started, I was telling you a little bit about, the show and how it's all really about empowerment of the individual, of guiding them back to themselves, their own decisions, their own intuitive knowledge. So I'd love for you to just start by sharing, how your work, how your mission empowers people to be a leader in their own life.
Oh, that's such a great question. Yeah. Hmm. I think, how does it empower people? Hmm. I think it empowers people in so many ways. It's hard to pinpoint like how exactly it does. But I think just it's more about, I think I would say it's more about how I teach rather than what I teach empowers people, and really just through experience and trusting their own experience. And, we can read a lot about like different theories and science and, other people's ideas. But I think really the most potent truths come from our, you know, exploring our inner terrain with a, like a fresh view, or a, beginner's mind, we might say. And so I think the work that I do, the wilderness retreats I lead, the different workshops, support that, like support this container of, what's your experience, and what meaning do you make versus what anyone else has to say about it.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And one thing that you said really kind of stood out to me, which is like exploring our own inner terrain. And I think that that's so important to be able to have our own experience and then discern based on that. We learn based on that. And that kind of brings us into like our topic today of the healing power of nature, because like we all have this inner terrain, but there's also this vast outer terrain. So how are we impacted by the outer terrain as well, by nature? What is our connection to nature?
Yes, yes. I was just writing about this in the book I'm writing. so so yeah, it's really interesting. And there is a growing body of science that basically says that, being out in nature benefits us in, mentally, physically, and creatively. And I would also argue spiritually. And, from very simple to, like, it reduces blood pressure. Being out in nature, it strengthens the immune system. Being out in nature for long periods of time, like 3 days, improves creativity by 50%. There was one study. And it's just this really curious curious thing I found. Um, another another study showed that, we're attracted to these patterns in nature, and people, fractals and different things like that, and they have a relaxing impact on the whole body. And even just looking at a picture of nature is calming.
Mm.
So it's really this curious thing, like, oh, why is that? And maybe it doesn't matter so much why, but it's just like, oh, it helps us being in nature, especially being in nature in a mindful, curious, open way, I think is life changing.
Hmm. I couldn't agree more. I think it's something that you can't argue when you spend time in nature, because there's this feeling, this sense within you of feeling good without understanding, without even any of the studies. Like, we
Mhm.
don't need the studies for us to realize that, oh my God, when we spend time in nature, something shifts within us. Something happens, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is a great point. Like, I think we need to kind of go back to trusting our own experience. The studies can be like nice for our, like our analytical brain, like a little nugget of motivation to get us to try something, but like really what it comes down to is your own experience. And I think many of us intuitively know that we feel better in nature, we feel freer, we feel more alive in nature.
Totally. I'm always curious to hear people's like origin stories of how this path found them, or how they entered this world of, for you, connecting with nature, hosting retreats, doing the things that you do. So what is your story? How did this work find you?
Yeah, well, I think there were seeds along the way, but I would have never imagined like like my 10-year-old self was never like, I'm gonna be a yoga teacher and lead wilderness retreats. Yeah, so the nature connection was there when I was uh, you know, a young child. I loved making like mud pies in my front yard. We had like this kind of mud pile, and after after it rained, the earth would be supple, and I'd make like different kind of shapes and mud pies, I called them. And nature was this refuge for me, and just like ordinary child experiences, arguments with siblings or didn't like what my mom was saying. I would go out into the woods and just be in nature. And it was kind of like this container that I just felt like I could be me and I could be free and I could cry and I could laugh and I could make up these worlds. Um, so I think the seeds were there, but I think I love this about life is that it's just kind of like following breadcrumbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school to be a chemist, and I was going to be I wanted to go to grad school later to be a research chemist in environmental chemistry and study how chemicals move throughout the environment, and in a way, hopefully, that we can make wiser decisions about the environment. And what happened was, after my undergrad, I did a number of pretty great jobs in like I worked for 3M, um, in the renewable energy division and with wind turbines and wind energy. And I had these jobs that were fulfilling on some level, but also there was something really that wasn't being there was something deep that wasn't being nourished, and prompted me to explore other things. So I had been doing yoga at that time for many years, and I had already had one yoga teacher training under my belt, and I just had to quit. Something in me was like, you need to just quit this job. And I became a yoga teacher, and it was really hard, actually. Um, I think I read a lot of stories that were really optimistic, like, just follow your dreams and it'll work out. And what happened was it like didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really struggling on a lot of levels. And I was like very broke, and then I had Lyme disease actually on top of it. So like this, I had this very rock bottom moment of, struggling financially. My physical health is falling apart, and then I started to work consciously with the earth energy. And my friend taught me these practices like grounding, being in my body, laying on the earth, these things that are very simple. Even when and they're very profound though if you just give them a chance. And I've taught these things to people, and when they do them, they're like, oh, I get it. Like, this is so powerful. So it's really something you have to experience to just get. But it was so healing. That and working with herbs and alternative medicine just was a really powerful time in my life that shifted a lot of the views I had. And then after that, it was kind of just following more breadcrumbs and like, oh, I really like this nature yoga mindfulness connection. And then kind of one of the main turning points was this Apostle Islands retreat that I always, ever since I went to the Apostle Islands, there it's like this collection of islands in this vast Lake Superior. And ever since I went there, I was like, I want to lead a retreat here. This is so cool. And the reason I was drawn to the Apostle Islands and leading a retreat there, because I thought it was this beautiful balance of water and land, and like the flowing nature of water and this groundedness in the earth. And so there was this kind of seed, oh, I want to lead a retreat there. And then a few years later, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Like, who says I can't do this? So I did it, and it filled up like with a waiting list, and it just shocked me that so many like people were interested in this like thing that I also thought was really cool. So that was the beginning of it, and that opened doors to doing more retreats at the Apostle Islands, and also doing these backpacking wilderness retreats and courses. So that is it in a nutshell.
So interesting. And one of the things that I love that you mentioned, because I say this a lot too, is like there's always these seeds that are planted. There's always these breadcrumbs that have always been there. We just don't realize that the whole piece of bread makes sense, until like we look back and we have these opportunities to really like reflect on it. And side note, I did not know that you also had Lyme disease. Like that's a huge part of my story. So I didn't know that. So yeah, I hear you on that. And I'm just thinking, like, for the people who listen to this show, most of them are pretty spiritually inclined. They're interested in personal development. They might be an entrepreneur. They're always looking to better themselves. What would you say are, one or two of the really simple ways that someone can start connecting with the healing power of nature?
Yeah, well, one of the ways, and it's so simple and you can do it just about anywhere, is laying on the earth. And I love it for a number of reasons. One, well, at least from my general tendencies to like do and go, it is just the complete opposite of, and just slowing down, setting down, worries and, anxieties or planning. And I mean, I actually visually like watch it dissolve into the earth, but everyone has their own process. And it feels so natural. It's almost it's like words can't really encompass how powerful it is, but it's it just is like this permission to set down, all the forward momentum or all the regrets and just let them be really held. And to me, they're being held by the earth or something bigger than myself. Um, there are actually beginning there are studies that are beginning to kind of explain what might be going some of what might be going on, which is kind of interesting, and how these like electrons get absorbed in the body when we're close to the earth, which is kind of interesting for people who have an inclination towards science. But really, it's something you can feel and experience. And like, there have been times when I've been like really grieving, and just to like let the earth, so to speak, hold that grief, um, and let it move or just feel it. It has been really, really nourishing.
I love that. It's such a simple practice, but again, it's almost unexplainable, and you don't understand until you put your feet on the earth, or you literally lay down on the earth and almost surrender your challenges to be held by a force greater than ourselves, right? The earth.
Yeah, exactly. And the other practice that is pretty cool, um, and has been really meaningful to me, is like looking at change in nature. Um, and because it's just such a potent spiritual teaching for me. Um, and one can do this through the seasons, and there are other ways to do it. You can do it through like watching a river flow, or through sound and listening to different sounds in nature, like the leaves rustling or the branches in the trees, like wind chimes. But it's really powerful on a number of levels. And let's just take the seasons for example. You know, it like watching the seasons, seeing how like a tree changes throughout the season. Like right now it's spring, so like I'm seeing little buds and some flowers come up, and that's like the spark of something new. And summer, everything is like full, the trees are producing fruit. Sometimes the trees are in full bloom, and then in fall, the leaves fall away. There's like this like movement of letting go, and then in winter, the tree is like completely bare. And Adi Ashanti, who has some training in Zen Buddhism, calls this like the tree is going back to its radiant core, or its essential nature, or like who it was before, identity and stuff like that. So, these seasons, to me, I mean, I think everyone has to like have their own experience with it, and make their own meaning of it. But to me, like when I watch the seasons, it's like a mirror into my own life, and like, oh, it makes me realize like these core aspects of nature are also happening within me in different ways. So um like when I see the leaves on the tree starting to bud, it can remind me of things in my life that are starting to bud. And oh, like this new course I want to make, or a relationship, or this project that seems really interesting to me. And then and so on. And I think one of the most healing things to look at is also like the letting go. And, you know, when we have to let go of something, or when the universe, when it just kind of feels like, oh, this relationship has run its course, or this aspect of my, you know, whatever being, I think I'm ready to let go of. And when I watch like the leaves fall in nature, it reminds me like, oh, that's natural too. And, you know, it may not feel totally comfortable, but, you know, that that can be, un- yeah, that can be nature too. And and lastly, like with winter, I used to just really hate um not doing anything. I would just be really repulsed. Like if my schedule is open, I'd be like the inner critic would come in. I'm not doing enough. I'm not being enough. But to really embrace these spacious moments and view them as precious, fertile grounds for like openness and ideas to come in, and just beauty in the spaciousness itself, um, has been powerful. So all of that is to say that, you know, watching movement in nature can be really curious, and it's not something to like intellectually understand. Really, it's more something to experience and to see, and to make your own meaning of it, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, we keep coming back to like making our own meaning of these topics. And for me, seeing nature and understanding nature, and I really know this from an Ayurvedic perspective of working with the elements and working with the seasons, it's really about, you know, seeing what's happening outside and noticing that it directly affects us inside. And it provides this like beautiful foundation I see for life. You know, we're not really given like a manual for how to live. I mean, not in the way that I think that we should be equipped. You know, how to process your emotions, change is natural, feelings are natural, like things change, you grow, you evolve. We're not really given that. But when we actually retreat back to nature, we are given these understandings. Like this is mirrored to us just in a more symbolic way. And it's already there, you know?
Mm. Oh, I love that. Yes.
Mm. I'm curious for you as we wrap up our conversation, what do you think the world would look like if more people understood nature's healing qualities?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I what I really think it does is I think it opens us up to accepting ourselves in a bigger way, and like really accepting ourselves, our quirks, you know, traumas, all of it, shadows, really accepting ourselves. And as we do that, I think we accept other people and nature itself. So with all this acceptance, I say that we're opening up to a bigger love. Like nature
Mm.
helps us open up to a bigger love. And through that, I think we're less reactive, and we make wiser decisions. I think we do less harm to ourselves, other people, and the natural world. Yeah.
Mm. It's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So what's next for you? Where can people contact you? Do you have anything exciting coming up that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm sharing a lot on Instagram. So I have an account, Whole Life Elevation, and you can check out my musings there, and latest pictures from, you know, probably St. Paul area. And also this summer, I have something exciting. I'll be having an introductory course on nature practices. So if this is interesting, you can follow me on Instagram to stay tuned, or check out my website, wholelifeelevation.com.
Well, Well, thank you so much, Laura, for being here, for sharing your wisdom, for using your voice with us. I'm very grateful for you.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Totally. And thank you everyone for supporting this mission, supporting this talk show, podcast, live video series. I'm just so grateful, and I'm going to keep sharing this because you never know who's hearing. My ultimate goal is for this to become a talk show on TV, broadcasting really powerful stories of empowerment, of hope, of inspiration, to remind us all that we are powerful. We have something within us that is special, and to disregard all the information that tells you otherwise. So we're just going to keep holding that as a dream and as a goal and as a vision for this talk show and for this series. So thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you so much. Bye.